Hello and welcome to Sunday Morning Coffee with Caryn, episode 55. Instagram, just trying to get you a little. There we go. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I am here just running around a little bit. You know that mom life. We are here on episode 55, and we're going to be talking about honoring the journey and how important it is for us to just honor everything that we've gone through, everything that we've done over the last however long your journey is. So this is a really I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do something that's really fun. It's called a synchronicity map. And it's a really amazing way for us to just realize how far we've really come. Thank you, babe.
You're welcome.
That sweet husband of mine bringing me my coffee. And my kids are singing "You're Welcome" from Moana. Seriously, you guys, my life is so fucking amazing. So, what we're gonna do today, we're gonna do a synchronicity map, and I want to explain to you first what it is and why it's so important for you to create one every now and then. So, I want us all to start by just thinking back to last year when school was starting. Okay, I want you to, and if you guys see my eyes shifting, it's because I've got Facebook right here and Instagram up here, and the cameras don't perfectly align with each other yet. I'm working on figuring out a better way to have it, but it is what it is. So, sorry, that was not enough sips for my first cup of coffee of the morning. Hold on. Okay. So if we think back to um, last year during school starting. So last year, Labor Day, last year's 9/11 Remembrance Day, last year in September, what were you doing? Where were you at? What was going on in your life? I was just barely finding out that I was here to be the dragon doula. I was just barely tapping into the fact that I was psychic, that I had super conscious gifts and resources, that I was able to connect to higher planes of consciousness in a whole new way, that I was literally birthing new realities every morning when I woke up. It was when I was first tapping into my vocal technology in a whole new way, actually calling it that. um, when I started writing my business around all of it, honestly, I didn't start offering dragon invocations until the end of September, even maybe the beginning of October. So, and my business was making like, let's see, I wasn't making consistent months. I'd have like a good month and then nothing for months and months and months. So by this time last year, my business for 2019 had only created three, had only created about 6,000, $7,000. Oh, thank you. 6 or 7 thousand dollars for the entire year. And this year I'm already at over, like, I'm at almost 50 grand for the whole year, which is really fucking cool when even before COVID. So we're gonna get there. But okay, so just year to year, barely had six that I don't even remember when I signed that other $3,000 client last year. So honestly, sometime this week was when I signed another $3,000 client, but he only paid me 10% of that up front. I didn't even make the rest of that until like literally the last week of the year. So actual net, like cash sales in my hand, I was under 5 grand for the year by September of last year. And I still closed, but I closed the end of the year at over 10K, which I thought was really fucking cool that in the last quarter I more than doubled how much I had made the whole rest of the year, right? And now here I am. I just finished out my first $20,000 month last month, and I'm on my way to breaking that again this month. So this is why those synchronicity maps, why honoring the journey is so important. So what I want to do is really show you guys how to create a synchronicity map. I'm not going to fill it in exactly, but I want to show you why it's so important to have one, because we forget, right? It's the reason why, like, I'm not someone who tells my clients to go and journal tons and tons of hours. I'm really bad about it. Most of my channeling is actually voice channeling that I do on my walks with my dog. So I'll just take out my my voice recorder on my phone, and I'll ask the question and then I'll answer it. And I know it's a technique that I teach my clients how to shift, right? You're shifting, and you can actually literally hear it on my voice recordings that like this is how my ego's like not my ego, this is how my conscious mind sounds right here. And when I ask a question into the voice recorder and I answer, you can actually hear a shift in the tone and the pitch of my voice when I answer. And that for me is my cue that like my higher consciousness took over and answered. And I don't remember what I have to go back. So then I'll go back and I'll play the recordings and I'll get all the notes from it that way. Other people, I've taught you guys the channeling that I learned from Krista Krista V. I can never, her last name is Russian and I always slaughter it, but Krista V, she's the boss witch. So if you've ever followed her, she creates the boss witch planner, which is, it's a fucking epic planner, guys. I use it every single day. It's amazing. Um, anyway, I've taught you guys that is amazing. Sabrina, I've been recently be getting into Gene Keys now, and this week, number 47, Transfiguration. Just like, I literally have chills with you saying that because you guys know how much I love the numbers 4 and 7. So, whew, okay, let me just, that hit hard. I will research that more, Sabrina, because damn, the word transfiguration in general, like, I use the hashtag Transfiguration Tuesday instead of Transformation Tuesday because we be transfiguring shit up in here. And honestly, a transfiguration is a series of transmutations. So it's even more perfect when we're talking about a synchronicity map. That's what you're doing, is that you're following the line of a full-on transfiguration, as in to morph the full figure instead of transmuting or just transforming, right? You can transform a piece of you, but a transfiguration is your entirety. So thank you for that, Sabrina. It's fucking cool. And again, the synchronicity map would be showing you the whole solvay at coagula process. A lot of people are not familiar. We talk about solvay at coagula to dissolve and then recombine, and we forget. I'm gonna look them up right now. Great. So alchemy actually breaks down into more than just dissolving and then coagulating. So it's solve, dissolving. It's actually calcination, which means to like add the heat to it. So when you get the trigger, when you realize like when the light gets shown on your shadow, that's the heating up phase. And then you have the dissolution phase. So if we're taking lead, we're going to use lead as the example because it's the easiest for you to think about. So you take a piece of lead, you add the heat to it. So you are the lead before your transfiguration, before your shift. You get the heat applied to it. You have your trigger that is it brought to light. Your shadow gets brought to the surface. Then you have the dissolution phase, so the dissolving where it's melting. The lead melts, right? And it melts, and you soften. You soften into dissolving. My old belief systems are dissolving around me. And then you go through a separation phase, and the separation phase is literally like sifting out the old, like the stuff that you want to keep, because lead to gold isn't a perfect 1-for-1 molecule ratio. You actually lose some things to turn that lead into gold, and it gets separated out. It goes through this separation phase, and then after it separates, it goes through the conjunction phase, which is the separated elements. Then they each demand a new way to be brought together, right? So now that they've been separated, they aren't just gonna like disappear, right? So this is where a lot of people get caught. They're like, okay, I realize what my old patterns are and I realize what I've been doing wrong, but they don't know how to let the old the conjunction to occur, right? So they don't allow for a new combination to happen. Your shadow is not good or bad, okay? You guys should know by now the dragon's path is not a path of morality, it's one of integrity. So you then decide. There are parts of me that, I'll use my rage as the example because Holy Rage, Sekhmet, Mary Magdalene, Lilith, you guys know that that's also all dragon energy. I totally throw fire at you constantly. So I've taken that rage piece that used to cause me to scream at my kids, that would like literally, I'm sure everyone in the neighborhood knew that I was a screamer. Um, that would make me like ball up my fist, where I would throw shit at the walls. That rage, I've now taken it, separated it from motherhood, and I've been able to refocus it in a new combination by focusing it honestly at just pure fucking rage at the current system and burning it to the ground, which you guys all literally witness every day. So that shouldn't be something that's surprising for you to hear from me. I'm not someone who's out there trying to save the current system. I'm glad that so many people are out there talking about conspiracy theories. I'm glad that people are out there talking about HARP and do and all of the like CIA shit. You're not going to hear me talk about it though, because in my new reality, that shit still doesn't exist. It's not that it doesn't exist as in like I'm too naive to realize that it's happening. It's that those things happen still on a totally different dimensional frequency than where dragons live. We don't have manipulators like that. We don't have whole governments that are trying to control their population in the dimension that I'm living in. And again, not in a, oh, I'm going to close my eyes, it's not happening. In a, I went through all of that. That was me in 2012 to 2018, was so angry at all of the lies and all of this stuff that I can see that now people are talking about. And I'm like, sorry guys, as far as I'm concerned, that's 4-year-old fucking news. You're not, I'm not surprised. There's nothing out there for me to get outraged about when it comes to out there. I'm going to take all of my holy fire rage and I'm going to burn down the old systems. I'm going to burn down any beliefs. And I know that the ash is going to allow for new, right? So that conjunction is taking your separation self, taking the like, there's good parts of me, not good parts. There's this shadow that I'm trying to crumble. I've put the heat on it. I've put the light on it. I've seen it. And now what? Like, really, what do I do with it? Well, you still have to do something. Matter doesn't just disappear, right? Matter and energy have to be moved. So you can take that anger, that rage maybe that you have, and you use it as your fuel. You use it as the fuel for your fire to move forward to create something new. So then after your conjunction phase where you've decided, okay, I've got two things that I'm going to make new instead, you have to go through a fermentation phase. So the thing, like to make gold, you have to still just sit there and let it ferment. So the matter, the old is allowed to fall apart. This is also known as like the putrefaction phase. Um, because you have to let the old die away. So what I was talking about with conjunction, I was kind of talking about fermentation and putrefaction too at the same time, where you take the two and what dies away. The anger and the rage towards my children fell away and died and mutated and became the fuel to create this business that I have that is literally changing the world. It's changing my entire family paradigm. My kids watch me building a business from the ground up. They're witnessing all these other changes within me. That means that the old me has to die. Again, that's something that so many of my clients come to me, and that's the part that they're not willing to do. They're not letting the old version of them die because they think that means something bad is going to happen. You have to let it die. You have to let it fall away. Sorry, I'm going to let my dog out really quick. He looks like he has to go to the bathroom, so hold on one second. Thanks all. So you let while you have your new idea fermenting, you have to let the old you fall away, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with having an ego death every hour if that's where you're at. So many, oh, I just did this. I just had this ego death. Okay, well, maybe you needed another one. And then after you've fermented, after you've gone through that whole process, you still have to distill. There's still going to be stuff like if you've ever made wine, you know that you go through the fermentation phase and then you have to pour it through a sieve essentially and get all the foamy, gross bits off the top. And then what you're left with is the wine. You cook the gold, you cook the lead down, they separate, parts fall away, some turns to ash, some just turns into the energy and it becomes steam, all these things. You let it distill or ferment, and you still have to pour it through to get all of the last little bits of impurities out before you have pure gold. Does that make sense? What I just, yeah, give me some hearts or likes. I want to make sure that I like walked you through that in a way that made sense for you. Yep, old news. Yes, thank you. How is Transfiguration Alchemy when trying to manifest? You need to stop trying to manifest. Stop trying. I Yoda just came in hard with that one. Do or do not. There is no try. You don't fucking try to do these things, guys. You're doing it. You are manifesting. I am manifesting, or I have it already. I always write things in the past tense or the present tense. I have $1 million in the bank. I have a multi-million dollar business, right? I have the work ethic of a millionaire, right? These things that I already have. I'm not trying to become a millionaire. Nah, motherfucker, I am a millionaire. It's just, right? That's where you're at right now, Sabrina, is that fermentation conjunction sort of like they write them out separately, but that whole part is happening all at once. It's what I call sitting in the goo, in the super conscious living, like which is like my unique methodology, I guess, if you want to call what I do a unique, like, if, if I had to label my methodology, it would be teaching you super conscious living, the process of going through from believing is seeing to, you know, getting even smaller and like what do you do next to breaking down completely to sitting in the goo, then having to do the next right thing, then realizing that what you're doing is so much fucking bigger than you that you finally arrive in fearless authenticity and showing up is exactly who you are. That's the process of birthing your dragon. You have to first believe that you're a fucking dragon, or that you have a little baby dragon that's trying to be birthed, whichever one works for you. So many of my clients come to me and they're like, I'm holding on to an egg and I feel like I need to birth it. So we birth out their dragon egg, but in the process, they too become the dragon mama to then be able to take care of this dragon egg, this amazing new creation no one's ever seen before. All of my clients are creating shit that they are the pioneers. There is no one coming before them. There isn't someone that they get to follow in what they're doing because what they're creating is brand fucking new. Because we're taking all of the old stuff, all of the old ways of coaching, all the old ways of writing, all the old ways of creating music, all of the old ways of creating art in general, and we're taking it through that alchemic process. We're taking it through adding some heat to it. What do we like? What do we not like? What is working? What is not working? And we break it all the way down. But no one's honoring their journey in that process. So I just walked you through the alchemic process. I'm pretty sure that I am supposed to be talking about that on next week episode, but whatever. We'll jump into it more. The synchronicity map that we're going to do now, watch once you're done, because we're not going to do it all together. I'm just going to get you started on it. When you're done, go back through and apply the alchemical process to it and see how you have gone through your own transfiguration, your own process. Like, I know this year, last year to this year, let's just talk about COVID for a second. How many of you are in the same place you were when COVID started? Like the exact same place. Like you're making the same amount of money, you're working the same job, you're with the same dude, you got the same responsibilities. Like nothing, COVID didn't change your life at all. Yeah, that's what I thought. No one. There's no one. COVID changed everyone's fucking life. It changed the whole planet. When COVID started, I was super stoked that my husband was going to be home from work. And then he jumped down the rabbit hole further down into his WoW video game. And by Easter, right after Easter, nope. Right after Easter, I had a massive breakdown, a huge revelation that the reason why I wasn't hitting my monetary goals in my business is that as soon as I was making enough money that I would no longer be financially dependent on my husband, I was going to leave him. holy shit, I've been married to this man for 11 years. I've known him for 20. Like, what the fuck? And from April to the middle of April to the end of middle of June, no, let's see. So the week of Easter to the week of the first lunar eclipse, which was the 6th of June. So yeah, so from like the 14th of April to the 6th of June, I went through an entire like marital dark night of the soul where I was literally convinced that I was leaving. I was totally just like done, completely like out. So many other people I knew were doing it too. I felt supported. I had people that were helping me. And then all of a sudden I saw something on the news where they were talking about the divorce rate, and I heard all of my higher self being like, "Hey babe, so your 3D ego, like the part of you that would not have been able to get through COVID so high vibe, she's trying to leave her husband. She's dealing with that shit. You're not that person anymore, so get your shit together. Like, you're not going to be a COVID divorce number. You're actually going to transcend it. You're going to get through it and move through it." We were actually able to have what I call an energetic divorce. I am not in the same relationship that I was one with my husband. Our marriage is so fucking strong. The man could not be more. No, that's true. There's some places that I still get irritated, but for finally, for the first time in our entire relationship, I am seeing that the things that irritate me about him, it's not him. It's not. We're not separate. He and I are not separate. You and I are not separate. We are the same being, this all-encompassing being. But can you honor that journey that you're going on to remembering that we are all one? What is unity consciousness really about? Unity consciousness is recognizing that there is no separation. That's what I mean by the dragon's path is not one of good and evil, it's one of integrity. I don't hold hate or anger or animosity towards the bad things happening on the planet because I know that they're just a result of the global shadows, the global taboos that we have pushed and pushed and pushed down to make them bad. And there's always going to be a forbidden fruit. You can see it all over the world. Take prohibition, for example. People were dying daily from alcohol related injuries, let's call it that, during prohibition. And the way that they were able to pretty much get rid. Like, I don't know very many people who talk about the black market bootleggers. I get that they still exist. I understand that there is probably still a black market for booze, but it's like this fucking big, right? Like, not even like that, like that big. It's tiny because it's legalized and regulated. So what if we did the same thing with drugs? What if we did the same thing with prostitution? What if we did the same thing with all the other bad things? What if we legalized them, stop judging people, stop making it a moral issue, and instead decided as a whole united race what it is that we hold sacred without condemning or judging the other things, right? Judgment is the killer. Judgment is the reason why all the shit going on in the world is happening because everyone's got their own sense of morality that is never going to be completely equal. And so there's going to be shit in the shadows and there's going to be shit in the light. And I'm done. I like that's a fucking boring paradigm to dragons. So if you're bored with all of that, guys, it's cuz you're stuck. You're sitting in the goo. You're sitting in this in-between space because you haven't honored how far you've come. You haven't been honoring how far you've already come to realize that you are safe to go even further. So, I'm going to light a little bit of Palo Santo because that got a little intense, and then we're going to make a synchronicity map and honor our journey. Felt really important that we talk about that alchemical process, even though I'm like 90% sure I'm going into it more next week. We're gonna dive into them next week because those of you who are going to Affluence, which opens on Thursday, oh my god, this retreat is so fucking amazing. We just upgraded the retreat house too to this giant fucking mansion with all this acres. It's called the Acreage down in Sedona if you want to Google it. It's fucking pretty as shit. Yeah. tomorrow, for the next 3 days at 11 a.m., we're going to be going live too. So if you want to know more about affluence, just come and be on the live stream every day, 11 a.m. Mountain, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then the doors open 11 a.m. Mountain on Thursday. There's 10 spots. So make sure that if you want in, you DM me or get on the list or go to carynterrace.com/receive. Instagram is the link that's in my bio. Facebook, I'm leaving the link for you right now here. Not comma. You'll get a free little gift when you do that. The Art of Receiving mini course. It's fucking amazing. But you'll also get notified the second the doors open for affluence if you go do that. So go do that. Okay. So real quick, let's have y'all grab out a piece of paper. So I'll give you also another second to grab that or your notebook, or you can just come back later and you can just watch. And you can come back and watch the replay because this will be on IGTV, it'll be on Facebook Live, it'll be on the YouTube channel in a couple of hours. Yeah. So just take a blank piece of paper. You just take a second to get quiet and figure out like what the intention for this exercise, the intention for creating a synchronicity map is purely non-judgment, is purely to create a series of events that led into another one that caused the next thing to happen that then led you to where you are, right? So while it might not feel good to go into, honestly, I don't care about talking about my almost divorce because I think it's fucking important and I find it really ridiculous. Some of the people that I'm just not gonna keep talking. I'm just gonna. Oh, that was a judgmental comment that we're not gonna say out loud. I feel that if there were more people that had the tools that I teach to move through the level of density that we all had to move through, that the COVID numbers wouldn't be as high. That not the COVID like death numbers because those already weren't as high, but the divorces, right? Because it was really fucking high. Like I know people that filed for divorce, they're still getting divorced. They still haven't gotten the paperwork finished because the courts were that backlogged. And it was almost all women, right? Women who had been running the fucking show, whose husbands were now home, who were judging the fuck out of them for how they were running the house. And the women were like, you didn't give a shit when you were at the office 60 hours a week. Why do you give a shit now? Anyway, my former client, amazing Erin Ryan, she's creating a course all about that. And if you are having any relationship shit going on, you should check her out. Her name is Erin Ryan, Crystal Lake Reiki. Okay, so synchronicity map. You just take a blank piece of paper, and I'm actually going to start with, because I've been talking about it with you already, we're going to start with I'm trying to think what I want to do, because which one's going to be. You can do this for however long. That's what I was about to say. You need to just pick a starting point, because the second you try to go even further back, like I could start this honestly on the day my daughter was born. So June 17th, 2017, Zena's birth. My daughter was born at home, unassisted, unplanned, unassisted. My midwife was on the way. My other births had been over 24-hour labors. I realized I was in labor, called my team, and my daughter was born less than an hour later. I did that shit all on my own, by myself, in my bathroom. My photographer made it. My husband was there. He was pushing on my back the way I was telling him to push on my back. But besides that, that was all me. Okay. That moment of my life is indescribably like powerful, gratitude, all of it. So then the next thing that's going to happen though is that from there, we were in such a low point that I've never like honestly admitted this on anything before, but it's time for it to come out. I was at a point where I had to choose between groceries and our mortgage, and I was caught shoplifting groceries from the grocery store because I didn't know what else to do. And that made it so that I literally like went through this whole thing of I can never ever again get this low. I cannot ever be so fucking ridiculous that I'm stealing groceries over paying my mortgage. Like, we don't have that many bills. There's not that much debt. I had a serious shopping addiction. I would spend any money that was in our account, it was gone. There were so many holes and so many gaps. Like, even just trying to think about 3 years ago and remembering that, like, I'm getting physically ill in my stomach because that paradigm is so foreign to me now, and yet it's what I lived in for years and years. I had been a kleptomaniac most of my adult no. I had a fish in college named Klepto because I stole the fish from Walmart. Like, I was a kleptomaniac. It's fucking bad, guys. I'm not anymore, but do you know how much, like, how hard it is for other people to admit mistakes from their past because they're so afraid of being judged for it? I know that you guys know that I'm not a kleptomaniac. So I'm not worried about telling you it. It's the same way that every other person that you admire and you follow has a story like that. They've got other people have rape stories that are horrible. There are other people who have such like grew up in insane amounts of poverty or whatever it is, but everyone has a past, okay? Everyone has a reason why they are where they are today, and it's our jobs to not judge them, right? And the way that we don't judge them, thank you, Christina. And the way that we don't judge them is by honoring our own journey and realizing, like, holy shit, I have parallels to that. I have never been raped. I have multiple of my clients that I end up helping with that. It's hard to sit there and try to compare your journey to someone else's, so don't do that. But you can empathize. You can empathize that there have been times where I was so low that suicide seemed like the best option. I was suicidal since I was 7 years old until 2 years ago. Would sit there with a bottle of aspirin and a bottle of vodka, angry at myself that I couldn't just mix the two together and drink them because I was so depressed. I was so lonely. I was so angry. I was not healthy. I had fibromyalgia. I had the whole world crushing against me. I had every excuse in the book. I had all of the reasons to just curl up into a ball. I was completely justified as far as I was concerned if I killed myself, and yet I couldn't fucking do it. I couldn't do it, and I could never figure out why, and I could never figure out why. And then I gave birth to my daughter. And then within 3 weeks of her being born, I got a ticket. Luckily, I didn't get arrested, but I got a ticket for shoplifting. And I had to deal with all of that. And then I joined a gratitude challenge. So that would be the next thing. Like, shoplifting would be right now. And then I remember yelling at the boys. That something happened when my daughter was like 6 weeks old, where I was yelling at my two older boys, and I felt like my daughter look at me, or she woke up from her nap, or something happened where she was like, "No, mom, you're not gonna be like this. This is not the mom that I am gonna get. I am not having no fucking angry mom that yells." And I didn't know what to do because the only thing that I knew was like, okay, I don't spank my kids, I don't hit them, but the way that you get kids to do what you need them to do is you fucking yell at them and you threaten them and you take shit away from them and you put them in timeout. That's what I knew. It's how lots of parents parent, right? And I ended up randomly, couldn't tell you how, don't remember how, joining a friend's 5-day gratitude challenge on Facebook. I had never been on a Facebook, like one of those 5-day challenges before. And she had us meditate. And I don't think I had ever meditated, to be honest. And we did this gratitude meditation. And by the end of it, I literally threw up. I remember this. I remember finishing the meditation. I was in the same room that I'm in right now. There's a bathroom right there. And we finished the meditation and I threw up because I realized that the feeling of gratitude was totally and completely foreign. The same feeling that I just described a second ago, saying like even talking about being a kleptomaniac feels gross and foreign in me. That's what gratitude felt like in my body. 3 years ago because I wasn't grateful for shit. I was entitled to everything, hence the kleptomania. See how they're like related? I was entitled. I was entitled to the world taking care of me. I was entitled to my husband for me. I was entitled to my daddy providing for me. Anytime that we didn't have enough money for bills, I would just ask my dad because my dad could just pay for it. Not anymore. My dad lost his job last year. We're going to get there, right? We're getting there. So then the next thing, okay, gratitude challenge. Oh my God, fucked up my shit. I didn't know what to do. So from there, I bought my first ever book called Get Your Shit Together. Then I listened to You Are a Badass. And You Are a Badass at Making Money. And I listened to um, Braving the Wilderness. So self-help books. Honestly, like I found out what personal development was. 3 years ago, I had no idea what that was. I now have a on my way to a six-figure business this year. It will hit six figures this year, and next year it'll hit seven. In 3 years, guys, it's fucking ridiculous. So self journey. I took my first solo road trip that year with my daughter at 4 months old. We went down to Las Vegas and went to a conference, Birth Without Fear conference that January Harsh was doing. I met January Harshi, who was one of my she got me through all of my birthing years. Um, so meeting my first ever idol, essentially my first famous person, having lunch with or dinner with her like she was a regular person, right? Um, then what happened? Then Christmas 2017 came around, and it was like, because I wasn't stealing our Christmas gifts this year, it wasn't a very exciting big Christmas. I don't really remember a lot of that. Oh no, I got my Akashic record clearing done. I hired my first coach. Oh, I didn't even say. See, and this is what will happen is that you'll start creating like a timeline situation that's going on, and then you'll remember something. So in between going to starting self-help books and going to Vegas, I made a new moon wish, started new moon rituals for the first time the day after my new moon ritual, where I wish to be able to be more um, budget better, to let go of my perfectionism, and to be able to release control of things that I didn't have control over. My roof literally collapsed on top of me. Literally. Like, there was a big bow it had been raining, there was a big bow in the ceiling, and it split while we were there, and all this water started gushing out, and we had to move all this stuff and get a bucket, and all this, like, gallons and gallons and gallons of water came out of my roof. And then the chunk of drywall that was all rotted fell and literally hit me on the shoulder. So if I had been a foot in the other direction, a huge chunk of sopping wet drywall would have fell right on me. I don't know if what you guys consider a call from the universe, but within 24 hours of having a new moon ritual, uh, that would be a call for the universe as far as I'm concerned, right? So then we had just bought the house 18 months before, so we had to get a refinance. We had to get a HELOC. But guess what? The HELOC allowed me to have all this extra money. I was able to pay off my court bill fines. I was able to get all of our bills up to date. So 2017, I'm wrong. 2017 was actually like a minimal Christmas, but it wasn't a Christmas that I had to go steal shit to have presents underneath my tree. Okay? Then I hired my first coach. My first coach, I ended up being immediately almost joining a business group that she was also in, like a business coaching program, because I already had a business as a massage therapist and now I could help people all over the world. Fuck yeah. So I joined the Business Babes group. Then I met Lorna Johnson, who was a huge factor in 2018 for me. Learned about dark workers, learned about shadow alchemy for the first time. We weren't even talking about shadow worker. Nobody talked about it as the shadow. I learned about Carl Jung. I learned about, subpersonal, all of the things that I teach you guys. I learned in 2018. This shit is not something that takes a long time, but if you are always trying instead of doing, you're never going to get there. You're just never going to get there. You have to get rid of the word try. Like, get it the fuck out of your vocabulary. You are doing it. You are doing the work every single day. The fact that you are manifesting a new reality so that you can be in alignment with who you truly are. You're not trying to do that. You're fucking doing it. So honor that you're doing it. So then the Lorna Johnson thing. Lorna Johnson, I got into her group and was just totally fucking obsessed with her and was paying like $200 a month to just be able to listen to the woman talk. She was running a class with Colleen Morgan. My grandpa died in July of 2018. When he died, I was his only grandchild. I asked my dad for $6,000 as my inheritance, saying I was his only grandchild. If he was alive, I would have gone and asked grandpa for this money. I want to get into this course, the Super Conscious Awakening course that had a retreat in Santa Fe with Lorna and Colleen. It's $6,000. And my dad gave me that money. So if my grandpa hadn't died, I wouldn't have had the money to take this course. I went to Hawaii. My mom broke her shoulder when we were in Hawaii. So all of a sudden, my babysitter was gone. My mom babysat all of my kids for me all the time with no problem. She shattered her fucking shoulder in Hawaii. She could not help me. So now all of a sudden, I don't have any siblings. I don't have any cousins. I live alone in Utah as far as I'm like, I have my parents and there's me. My husband's family doesn't live here. All of my friends were in worse shape than me. Worse shape, as in like they were working more hours than me. Or they had more kids than me, or their husbands were not as supportive of mine, whatever it was. So, but we didn't have the money for me to just go hire a nanny while I built my business. So I did all of my coursework and all of my business stuff trying to get that shit off the ground while also having my baby and spending time with them and raising my kids and getting my oldest to and from school. He started homeschool in 2018 actually to make it a little bit easier, to be honest. Um, then Lorna Johnson, then that's when the Naked Mirror mantras came in with Bianca. Uh, I lost half my body weight in 6 weeks. Not half my body weight, but half my body size. I went from a 14 to an 18 in 10 weeks. Yeah, in 10 weeks. Um, 14 to an 8, sorry. So a size 14 US to a size 8 US in 10 weeks. I was able to go from being that entitled, childish, suicidal little girl to a grown up, grateful, sustainable, sovereign queen in this time. And then from there, didn't pay my mortgage 1 month. Still didn't pay it because I got convinced that if I invested in somebody else, and that led down another rabbit hole to me then leaving the Lorna sphere. And I started doing my dragon tongue, but I didn't call it that. I called it speaking in dark language or something like that. And then I ended up going to I started working out. Oh, I wanted to work out. And I started going to that group. And do you see what I'm doing here, guys? Like it's going and going and going and going. I went to June. In June, I went to in June 2019 now. So we've now gone a whole 2 years down this road, and I've just been able to link all these things together because I know that had the previous one not happened, I never would have been in a position for the next thing that happened, right? So I went to Chicago and I did an event with Lorna Johnson, and I did an event where I was in my lingerie, wearing a mask, in high heels, singing in dragon tongue for a group of strangers, 100 people. And then I came home and was still struggling and still like I got my first client. Oh, there we go. I closed my first client before that. In May of 2019, I closed a $12,000 deal, my first coaching client. So that whole time that I was trying to build a business from January of 2018 through May of 2019, I didn't get a single client, and yet I was investing and investing and investing because I didn't realize how much of my own shit I had to get off of me before I could teach what I was so easily understanding, but I wasn't embodying it, right? You can understand the stuff that's being taught you. You can understand every single fucking word that's coming out of my mouth, but if you're not embodying it, that's the reason why things aren't shifting. Because you're not allowing the fermentation and putrefaction process. You're not allowing the old you to die. to become something else. Okay. Old me didn't wake up at 5 a.m. Old me didn't go on hikes. Old me didn't do any of the fucking things that I do that now, like, if I don't do them, my days don't work out as well. They just don't. They're rushed, everything. So I closed my first ever coaching client at $12,000, $3,000 down. I lost my vibration. I freaked out. She didn't renew or she couldn't make her next payment. Right? So, but that doesn't discredit the fact that I closed a $12,000 deal, my first client. I didn't get $12,000 cash, sure. But it was still, that's the contract that she signed. You understand? Like, so many people are like, oh, but I only made $3,000. No, man, like, you had a bigger sale and then you lost the vibration because I got like, oh my God, what the fuck am I going to teach this woman? Essentially. I lost my faith in my own self, even though I've been trying for a year and a half to build a coaching business. And once I finally got what I wanted, I collapsed, right? So I went through my own phoenix. Got the first client, got another subsequent client, went to Chicago, did that whole thing, hired another coach, lost all of my money, like didn't make a single dime the whole time that I had hired her because it was really really out of alignment. Like I never should have hired her. I hired her out of shadow. Ended up in this 9-day dragon class with another woman who spoke dragon tongue, and she used the same deck that I do. 9 days, she do an activation. Holy shit, who are you? What are you doing? Skydiving. Went skydiving on my birthday last year, and on that day decided that every timeline that exists in which I have any suicidal thoughts or that I ended up with suicide, that I was going to squash her. So I took all of my timelines, jumped out of that airplane, and the only timelines that didn't end up dying with the hottest guy that you can imagine on her back are the ones in which I was not suicidal, are the ones in which I am prosperous and blissful and turned on and loving and affluent in all areas of my life. Because by then I understood timelines, which is something 3 years ago I didn't understand at all. I didn't understand multidimensionality. I didn't understand 12D consciousness. I didn't even know what the fuck a light grid was. And then I met another person who did similar things with vocal toning. I met this woman named Free Chihawk, who was almost a billionaire, who was doing millionaire challenges. Let's make $1 million in 90 days. She had $1 million coaching packages, teaching people rituals and doing all sorts of crazy. She's all about her great juju. She's a Gnostic priestess. She taught me all sorts of things that way. And she was the one who looked me in the eye and said, you're not here to teach people parenting, you're here to teach about dragons. And that was in October of last year. Signed a $6,000 full pay client, which was amazing. Onboarded all sorts of psychic gifts during that time. And then 2020, and I could keep going, right? I'm not writing it down anymore, but I can keep going and I can keep going. And COVID and all these things. I've now closed a $17,000 client in that time. I've now gone to making $20,000 months. I've now gone to making that consistently. I'm about to host a retreat that is $14,000 a person to go to because I have these women in my life. I am so fucking grateful for everything, and gratitude is my normal vibration now. Just sitting and thinking about, like, I'm like on the verge of tears right now with how grateful I am that my life changed because of how fucking low it got. So low. And yet I still couldn't kill myself, and I could never figure out why. And now I know why. And it's because it was my duty, it's my fucking mission to show you guys that a depressed, suicidal, suffering from fibromyalgia suburban housewife in Salt Lake City, Utah, changed her life because she decided that she wasn't entitled to anything, that no one was going to give me the life that I wanted. But I also didn't have to work my ass off for it. I knew there had to be a third way. There had to be a new way. There had to be a magical way, and not just some magic pill, because guys, what I do, what I teach, it's fucking hard. It's hard because it's so new. It's hard because there's no manual. It's hard because you have to decide with every fiber of your being that you are willing to let die any judgment you have about how this process is supposed to look. We had all this money from the HELOC. I spent it all on coaching. We had all this money from other things. We've done this up and down thing. COVID happens. I get the stimulus check from COVID. All of a sudden, my money that I was going to get as a tax refund, I don't need to use it to help pay for things going on in my, like, the last 6 months of my life, we have created so much prosperity that I can't even begin to describe to you how hard it is for me to wake up in the mornings and realize that this is my life. I still wake up thinking, oh my God, I must have a bill that's not due or that's due right now and I don't have the money to pay it. And then I look at my bank account and there's tens of thousands of dollars in there. And I'm like, oh no, I'm actually fine. Your old pattern, I was the way I was for 30 years. There is a whole lot of that that's just in my DNA. It's in my neural pathways. You guys, I talk about neuroplasticity all the time for a reason. Neurons that fire together wire together. That means that my old habits are wired in my brain more than my new habits because I did them for longer. So it takes that much more effort, just a little, not a lot. I'm not working myself to death. I work 20 hours, not even. I work 15 hours a week. Maybe 10 to 15 hours a week. I'm not doing this any way that other people are. Like, even the business coaches out there, for the most part, I'm not listening to them. I have one business coach. She has me doing one thing on one platform for 1 year, and we are on our way to $1 million because of it. I slowed the fuck down so I could speed up. And I'm here to tell you guys that I could never have done that if I didn't honor who I used to be. I honor the fuck out of the version of me who birthed her baby in her bathroom and then got a ticket for shoplifting, because if that hadn't have happened, I never would have had the catalyst necessary to change. I would have stayed the same. You need shaking moments. You need moments that crumble you. You need moments that take you down into the very depths where you're just like, I can't. I can't continue doing what I'm doing. Because it forces you to change. That's where the calcification begins. When you have that moment where you are sitting there and you're like, I cannot wake up tomorrow and do the same thing again. That's when the heat has been put on you. That is when the whole process to be free from the impurities, to be free from all of the things that have held you down, you absolutely are required to let yourself die. You have to die and die and die and die and die. I am not the person I was 3 years ago. I'm not the person I was 2 years ago. I'm not the person I was a year ago. And I'm sure shit not the person I was 6 months ago. And that's okay. Change is good. You're either changing and growing or you are dying and decaying. That's it. If you stagnate, you're dead. That's how it works on this plane. If you stagnate, you're dead. So if you're stuck in the same place, I challenge you today to go and make a synchronicity map. Go through the last year, go through the last 6 months of your life and see all the ways that you've changed. All of the things that are different, all of the different pieces that if this hadn't happened, then this couldn't have happened, and you wouldn't have met this person, and then this wouldn't have happened, and then that wouldn't have happened. And you will have such a beautiful sense of gratitude for the fact that you are conscious enough to do this. There are so many people on this planet, guys, that are not doing this. So please, please, we're going to spend the next minute just being grateful. So take a nice deep breath into your heart space and find that piece of gratitude, that gratitude for your ability to breathe. We're just going to start with being grateful for our life, for the fact that we are alive. right now. And allowing that gratitude for breath to then grow and be gratitude for the food that we ate this morning, for the house that we're living in, for the internet that you have to be able to watch this. Expanding that gratitude out to where you are in your journey right now. No matter if it's what you think you wanted, it's where you are. Having is evidence of wanting. What you have right now is exactly what your higher self wants you to have so that you can learn the lesson, so you can uncover the unconscious shadow that's holding you down and you can turn that lead into gold. Expanding that gratitude to the journey you've been on, following that path, that labyrinth through to all the places that you thought were a dead end and there was really a door. All those places where you thought, I cannot do this any longer, and you realized that there was a friend, a guide to help you on that part of the journey. I've had so many mentors and so many guides that I know that if I hadn't met them and worked with them through that section and length of my labyrinth, I wouldn't be where I am. So I'm grateful for every dollar I have invested in myself, which at this point is tens, if not hundreds of thousands of them. I'm grateful for every client who said no, for every client who said yes. I'm grateful for every person who's ever left a comment, whether they were positive or negative. I'm grateful for every person who watches these live streams. I'm grateful for every message that I've gotten from someone saying they saw a dragon in the window and that made them think of me. And you allow the gratitude for your journey to continue to expand and expand and expand, and you realize that gratitude can be your regular vibration. And when you're grateful for all the good and all the bad, because it's not an issue for me or anyone, if you're on the dragon path about morality, it's integrity. And for me, I'm in integrity when I'm grateful. If my baseline vibration is gratitude, I can get into a fight with my husband and it's not as nuclear as it used to be. I can actually bypass most of the fights because I realize as soon as they're starting, there's a part of me that needs to be dissolved, and I do the inner work. My external life looks like a fucking fairy tale to other people because of how much internal work I do. Knowing that the inside is reflected on the outside. Having is evidence of wanting. So, what I have on the inside of me reflects on the outside of me. So when I had doubt and fear and worry and scarcity and lack on my external circumstances, it's because that's what I felt on the inside. And now that I don't feel that on the inside, I don't have those things on the outside. Yeah, yeah, motherfucker, I am a millionaire. Okay, Instagram, I love you guys. This live's gonna cut out in literally 2 minutes. So if you have any questions or anything, DM me. I love to hear from you all. Thank you all for joining. I'm gonna let you guys go. Facebook, you too. I love you guys. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. Let me know if there's anything that you need. If you want to dive more into the synchronicity map, please let me know that too. And I love you all so much. And I hope you have a beautiful Sunday. And now I'm going to go watch the Vikings kick the Packers' ass. So, go Vikes.